What's up, folks? Welcome back to another episode of Log Talk with Pert Near Outdoors. This is your host, Billy, and I apologize if my voice sounds a little froggy. I'm still in recovery from the wild party we had at Ralph Olson Stadium on Saturday. It was an incredible experience, great time to be there in the stadium. Danny Boy and I had a blast, and I ultimately had a little too much fun, and I'll save that story for another day, as it's not something I want to discuss right now, but I'm still licking my wounds. And, just a little fatherly advice to anyone out there. It is not a great idea to drink 4 24-ounce seltzers, hard seltzers, and then not eat anything. Your stomach really doesn't like that. So just, speaking for a friend, I learned some lessons there on Saturday. Nonetheless, had a freaking blast, and on to the divisional round we go. So strap in. Buffalo Bills look legit, and hopefully make a good run here. Enough on the sports talk for the moment. We're going to jump into today's episode. I had a conversation with Wes LaBar last week. Him and I caught up and wanted to hear about the buck that he shot up in the Adirondacks this year. And if you have been following along right along with us, you know that Wes and his buddy Austin, they shot 2 good bucks. Austin did, one with his muzzleloader and then one with his rifle during, I think it was like the end of October, beginning of November. So these guys had an awesome season up there, and it was fun to just kind of have a longer form conversation with Wes and learn a little bit about him and the style of hunting they do up north there. And since I think that is something that is intriguing many based on the amounts of downloads and the listeners that we're getting on podcasts about the Big Woods and about the Adirondacks in general. So good times. Enjoyed chatting with Wes. Hope to someday hit the woods with him. Sounds like a cool dude. And it's been a lot of fun getting to meet different people from all over the place doing this podcast. And truly shows to be one of the best parts about it. So I will keep it short and sweet since I feel like crap. And I'm gonna get to work and talk to you later. Keep feeding them, people. Go Bills.
Hello.
Yeah, that's your
Yeah.
name.
Squirrels got me.
Big Jim.
Yeah.
Really, 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 really cold and fun.
Cold and fun.
Cold and fun.
That's good that you think that of it, because that's what deer hunting typically is cold and fun.
Yesterday morning, I'm glassing up on the pass and I see these deer moving. And I'm like, ooh, there's some deer moving. All of a sudden, I just see this person just head down, just hauling ass, wearing shorts and a t-shirt with a pack on. And I'm like, is that Tard? My dad always talks about floating through the woods like the autumn breeze.
So Robert's
When you're
the
275 pounds, I don't know how you do that, but
The Freightliner. It's just like a creeper. You're just kind of up in the corner watching what's going on down there.
yeah. He's like,
He's up there slapping, pissing all over everything.
is it warm yet?
How did you know the name of the actor?
That's, I know.
Why did you say his name?
Hervé Villechaize.
You know what pert near means.
If you know what pert near means and you live in America, you're a redneck too.
Welcome to the Log Talk Podcast, brought to you by Pert Near Outdoors.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a lot
Now-
better.
A lot better. Now we're talking.
Good. Sweet.
Yeah. Wes LaBar, welcome to the program. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you, man?
I'm
Good
good.
to be back.
Yeah. Sorry we're a little
Yeah.
late. I never know what the evenings are going to bring. And we got into a little bit of a Mighty Ducks movie night tonight. So I don't know if you
Oh,
ever
did
watched.
ya?
I don't know if you ever watched those growing up, but
Yeah, a long time ago now.
yeah, Bill Dan was working on his
Uh.
knuckle puck.
There you go.
Yeah,
Good deal.
it's good times, man. So
Yeah,
glad we're
gotta
finally able to catch up and get you on here to hear about the closure to your deer season, because you ended up you were on a couple times with Austin, and
Yep, that's right.
and heard the stories on his $2. So
yeah, we had a season started out really, really good. That was awesome way to start out. Opening weekend of muzzleloader, Austin killed that 200-pound deer. Nice mainframe 8-pointer. And then 2 weeks later, that short hunt we did after work where he killed that giant Adirondack buck down there in the oak trees. That was just an incredible start to the deer season. You know what I mean? So, and then it was weird. It got quiet after that. Once we got into that latter part of the season, we realized that, at least up here, I don't know how it was for you guys, that the rut actually hit like the last week of October. And so this deer season, I think a lot of people would agree that it was real different than the other deer seasons, especially up here, because we didn't get any of that mid-season or late season snow. And there was only acorns this year. So as far as like the Adirondack hunting, it made it kind of nice for us. And I think that was the reason for a lot of our success, is because the deer were concentrated to those acorns. But it definitely made the deer season challenging with just like, these milder days of just these 40-degree weather, and just it just was different, I think, for a lot of people this year.
Yeah.
So
agreed. And before I tend to do this, I get the conversation started before we actually like introduce the guest and talk about who the hell you are. So I mean, if people listen to the Breeding and Radio episodes from back in the season, like beginning of October, would have been like, or end of October, beginning of November, we had you and Austin on. But I guess give a little rundown of who you are, where you're from, kind of your background in hunting.
Yeah. So if this is your first episode, and if you haven't heard, I've been following Pertner for 2 years now, but my name is Wesley LaBar. I've been raised in the Adirondack since I was 7 years old. My dad grew up here, and I got into hunting and fishing through a couple of his friends and some buddies. And my grandparents didn't hunt. My father didn't hunt. There wasn't a lot of hunting going on in my family, but I got into it and just grew a really big passion for it. And then fast forward now to age, I'm 26 now. I got my own guide service. I've had it for 2 years now. I've had my guide license for almost 3 years. And I'm just addicted to it, like a lot of us that got into it, but my story was just a little bit different because I had to come up really teaching myself how to hunt and making all those rookie mistakes. But I think in my later years in life, it's starting to pay off, because starting out as a rookie hunter at a later age, at like starting at age 10 or 12, I think it allowed me to make all these mistakes and learn from a rookie's perspective. But
I'm sitting here as a 33-year-old with 2 kids, a house, all this, and you're like, in my later years. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Yeah. Come see me see me when you're changing diapers, youngster.
I don't know. A lot of people, when they introduce themselves, I'm, my grandparents and my family's been hunting for 4 or 5 generations. I just have a little bit different story. If my dad didn't move back up here and take over a family business, I'd be some suburban kid from Nashville, Tennessee, where my parents met. You know what I mean? Yeah. So my dad, so through the ways, my name is Wes LaBar. I'm from central eastern Adirondacks, and I have LaBar Guide Service is my guide service. If any of you guys are listening, I still do take a few specialized hunts, but you'd have to get a hold of me in advance, just because I do have a different full-time job now. But yeah, if you guys are looking to get into Adirondack hunting, look up my page on Facebook, LaBar Guide Service, and get a hold of me. So
for sure. So we had you on. We talked about Austin's bucks, and I believe I was in Pennsylvania when I received the messages from you that you were calling your shot and wanted to be on the podcast, because now you had something to talk about. And you yourself wrapped your hands around a beautiful ADK buck. So I
Yeah,
want to
sure
hear the
did.
story. I haven't heard it yet.
Oh gosh. So yeah, if hopefully by now, if people are listening to this podcast, they read the other or listened to the other podcast, but Austin killed those 2 giant deer. One of them, the first deer he killed, was on my property, which was also near property that he hunts. So he had a chance at that deer. But as far as like the other one, and Austin even knows, and I know he's gonna listen to this and he's gonna laugh about it, but that deer, that second deer that he killed, was in a spot that I've never even taken to him before, and the deer ran right to him before it came to me, and Austin's gonna hear this, he's gonna start smiling and chuckling, but he even knows that if he wasn't friends from, if he didn't go with me that day, he wouldn't have got that buck and I would have. And that's just for you guys who are listening to this podcast, you might be like, what deer is Wesley talking about? You got to look it up on my Instagram, look it up on Pertinary Outdoors or my guide service page. I mean, it's just 151 inch Adirondack giant. So
yeah, because
with all that wrapped up
on the podcast,
yeah,
I think you said like 130 something. Then you messaged, and I was like, I don't think that was
that's
right. And then you messaged me back, and we're like, I was wrong there.
Yeah, we forgot to add up the inside spread on that deer, so it ended up grossing. I know it's kind of embarrassing, but either way, the deer grossed at 151. We thought he was 130s, but I think after drying, he'll be 147, 148.
Yeah.
But either way, just absolute once in a lifetime giant deer. So, yep, he killed that deer. So, anyways, the pressure was on me from the very beginning of the season, because my best friend killed 2 giant deer in my spots. So I ended up was able to, throughout the season, I was hunting with a couple of buddies who I'm trying to get into hunting, and I let go some smaller deer. But getting into the last week of season, I was just really just the thought of my head going, man, if season closes and I haven't killed the deer, I'm going to be so salty about Austin's bucks. I'm going to be like, gosh, damn. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
the fruits of my labor and the time I put into it. And Austin knows it. And Austin puts in a ton of time too. He absolutely deserves those deer. You know what I mean? I'm not taking away or discrediting him at all. But, I put the pressure on myself as a whitetail deer hunter. It's like, okay, you made it happen for him. You got to make it happen for you. But everyone knows hunting up here, you don't always get opportunities at deer like you do in any other area of the country. So anyways, fast forward to, it was the last week of season. I think the season closed on the 6th. And it's Wednesday afternoon at work, and I started getting a tickle in my throat, and I wasn't feeling good. And Thursday really wasn't feeling good. My boss said, if you don't feel good tonight, when you wake up tomorrow, don't come in. So I woke up, I still didn't feel any better. This is Friday, December 4th. And I texted him, I said, hey, I'm not coming in today. So I went downstairs, and I was going to take some NyQuil and go back to bed. And so I did. And I laid there for like 30 minutes. And I was like, man, I cannot lay here knowing that it's 3 days left of deer season. I'm out of work. If I just bundle up. And then I went downstairs and realized that I took Dayquil instead of NyQuil anyway, so I wasn't going back to sleep. Yeah. So I wasn't going back to sleep. And so I bundled up, took some more medicine, got some cough drops, and I headed right into the truck, and I went down to the same spot that Austin killed that giant early in the season. And I would have went for oak trees anyways, but I went down there, got in the acorns early. I sat down and got settled in, and I heard some deer walking around. Couldn't really see him. Got a glimpse of one, got some binoculars on it, and it was a small spike horn. He worked his way through. And then we were standing there a little bit longer, and I always love to call. So I'm like, when I hunt, I like to still hunt. I can't sit still for more than an hour and a half, 2 hours. And if I do, I like to call because I've done a lot of calling and had success with it. And that's what led to the success on this hunt. So 20, 30 minutes went by. It's 7:15 or something like that. And I saw a doe and a fawn come running through, and they kept looking behind them. And I was staying vigilant and ready and looking around, and I had a lot to look at in this area because the leaves are off and you can see really far. So I decided I was going to get into my calling sequence. So I got out my Primos bleat can that I've used since I was really, really young age. It's not the same one. I've had 3 or 4 or 5 of them because they go bad, but I got one out and I tipped it over a few times and made a few estrus bleats, waited a couple minutes, made a couple more estrus bleats, so 5 or 6 total over a minute and a half, 2 minutes. And then I waited 5 minutes, and I don't know, he could have been, that could have got this buck's attention. You know what I mean? It you never know, but I did what I normally did and waited 5 minutes, and I got my grunt tube out and I gave a couple like clucks and a couple long grunts, what, a couple nice deep throaty, grunts out, and waited a few minutes. And as a hunter, you're always sitting there looking around, panning through the woods, playing scenarios through your heads of, okay, if he comes down through this runway, I'll shoot him here and there. And so all this stuff is going through your head as I'm hunting, and I'm sitting there, and then I just hear the crashing of this, just absolutely just exploding through the woods. And so I'm looking downhill right now, which would be looking west. And there's a deer run that comes from east to west down the hill. And the way I was facing, I was looking downhill to begin with. I thought he was coming from the east or from the west and heading east, which would be going from the bottom of the mountain up. So I was facing in the direction. I got ready, and I was just, praying in my head, like, okay, I know what's going on right now. I heard it. He's, something heard me. He's coming in. But it also could have been him chasing deer off the mountain behind me and them running below me just out of sight. So that could have been a possibility. But I really do think it was just this buck. So either way, I'm standing there, which felt like an eternity, felt like 2 to 3 minutes, had to be more like 45 seconds to a minute. And I'm looking around. I can't see anything, but I know a deer just ran into sight. So I hit my grunt tube a couple more times, and he came crashing down even more. And when he broke from wherever he was standing before, I immediately whipped around and did a 180 because I could tell he was coming off the mountain behind me. So whether that was deer he scared or I heard him the whole time, he was behind me. And I turned around and I could see a couple glimpses of his rack in the bushes. So I got my binoculars up on him and I looked, confirmed it was a rack, and then got my gun up. He turned, he was facing me. He was looking all around like this. I mean, he just came screaming in off the mountain, so responsive. And for anybody who's ever called in a deer like that, to have him come crashing in, it's like, all right, turkey hunting is like my favorite, right? And it's very exhilarating, but like to have a mature Adirondack buck come, crashing in off a mountain, or any buck in any location in the world coming crashing in like that, is just, there's nothing like the feeling. It's so intense. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you've manipulated this mature animal to thinking that you're something that he wants to fight, and he's coming in for war and battle. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's a cool feeling. I think that's why I'm addicted to turkey hunting and love it so much, is because you're in constant communication with that animal and calling him in and stuff and manipulating him. So either way, he came in and he was looking around, and he happened to just like, kind of, he had his ears pinned back and he was acting all mature, and his hair stood up on his neck, and he was just kind of looking around, throwing his head up and down, and he turned sideways, took a couple steps. I could just see the top of his back, and I let him have it, and the old 243 barked, and he didn't move. He dumped right there.
Oh, really?
Dumped. Yeah, just boom.
That's
So
awesome.
Dropped in his tracks. So just, it was just an amazing end of the season. I couldn't believe it. I took some videos. I put a little clip together. I don't know if you watched it. I don't think it up. You did? Yeah. So, I mean, it's just for a few minute long, whatever, iPhone clips. It came out pretty cool, but I was obviously pumped up, and to wrap up a season like that, where it was just like mid-season was real, like a big lull because it was post-rut and we weren't seeing much activity. And then, with the way it started, to wrap it up with a nice, 4-year-old buck was just super special. He had a couple broken off tines. There's a mainframe 8, a legal 7. He snapped off his brow tine so low you can't even count it. But, he was thick around the bases. He was wide. He was mature. He was rutted out. He had scars all in his neck and then right behind his eye where he had tines going into his face from fighting. And so he was an old tough buck, but he was definitely one that I was able to, be proud about because, not because I was 4 miles back in the woods, but because I had put in a lot of time and been a part of a lot of other hunts that year, and I just felt like I put in the time on it,
Yeah.
That's 3 years in a row. I wrapped it up in the last weekend of season, so it's like God's really been testing my patience and making me earn it. It's been funny, but it's awesome.
Yeah, and so you said that was the same area that was the same area Austin shot the first one. So that's
Austin shot his second one, which was the biggest one.
Okay.
The 150-inch deer. Yep.
That's 2 good bucks, really good bucks out of
right
area
there
like that.
And then my other buddy from Buffalo, New York, he came up and shot a 2.5-year-old deer right in that same area. Or I'm not going to say the same exact area, but same food source, general area. So that goes back to, people talk about, what happened in the Adirondacks this year. Well, the acorns were happening. And if you weren't in the acorns, it wasn't happening for you this year in the Adirondacks.
Yeah.
So it can be, that's just the way the game was played this year up here.
Well, that's a whole, it's really tough when you don't have snow. I mean, that's a huge part of the game for you guys. And it is for us down here too. I mean, I live for it, gun season to have snow because I don't like sitting either because we sit all archery. So, come gun season, it's like, let's go, like, let's get up and let's still hunt.
Yeah. Let's hunt them. Yeah, exactly.
So it's tough. And then
get after it.
Not having that, you're not hunting rutting sign, you're hunting feeding sign. So, it's really tough without the snow. You can't see the digging. It's tougher to find the beds, it's challenging.
Yeah.
So
it just has and I think that's another reason why it's hard to hunt up here in the Adirondacks, and it's different is there's no one main food source. A lot of guys you'll hear talk about that, like an Adirondack buck will survive off of anything and everything that he can, little buds off of trees and bark off cedar tree. And, there's not a lot of patterning you can do like a lot of other people talk about on TV and stuff like that. It still makes it killable, makes it so you can kill deer, but I think it puts a little bit of a harder twist on it for us up here.
So
especially if you're trying to hunt one day.
So almost when you have acorns, it probably helps because you can narrow it down a little bit when that
my gosh,
acorns are producing.
Yeah, I think for sure. I think it definitely, unless it's one of those years that acorns are good and beech nuts are good. When beech nuts are good, it's good for the deer, and it's nice and all, but there's so many beech trees in the Adirondacks that's just like, it's like when there's corn and cornfields down there by you. They're everywhere. Cornfields everywhere. When there's beech nuts everywhere. So these deer are scattered. When there's acorns, there's only so many acorns, so they get to be bunched up. Like in this area that we killed some of these bucks out of this year, I remember 3 years ago I was running cameras in there. I had 14 bucks like in a 3-4 square mile area, and the next year there was no acorns in there, and I had three bucks on camera, and I had the camera up there for a month and a half and had 3 bucks on it. And that year before, when I had 14 bucks on it, that was only in like a 3-week period.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show you the movement in that area based off of the food source. So
yeah, and that's driving where the does are hanging. That brings the bucks around the area. And even right now, I mean, I think this is a fantastic time to get out, and I assume you guys have a little snow on the ground up there right now.
Yeah, we do. I've been doing a lot of scouting right now.
Yeah. This is a fantastic time.
Yep. The deer finally started to yard up around here as of 2 or 3 weeks ago, where there's, they're coming down into the towns and feeding off the bird feeders and people that feed them. But, deer, the reason why it was a lot harder up here for some people is the deer didn't have to yard up this year early season. There was no snow. They were able to hang out in those areas miles and miles and miles away from civilization and be comfortable without having to rely on humans, So I think overall people killed a lot of bucks up here this year, but at the same time people are like, man, I hardly saw a deer. So
yeah,
but that's just the way it is.
But it was
the way
I mean,
it goes up here.
it was the same way down here, man. I mean,
Yeah.
it was a tough season. I mean, I'm very appreciative and thankful for the deer that I shot, and I know the same thing with the guys that I hang with in my family. But I mean, it was
you
tough.
guys had good luck overall.
We did, but it was. I mean, if you look at it actually on paper, like when you had success, it was very predictable times, you know. And that's one of the things I took away is that it was the primetime days that I expected to have opportunity. I had opportunity, but
that you did.
You know, some of those late, you know, like third going into fourth week of October, where I was really optimistic about seeking activity, it wasn't happening on the farm here. And, you know, at camp, it was kind of, I would say it was pretty consistent deer activity at camp, but man, something just out here on our farm, my in-laws farm, is just like, it was just not a good year. And it still isn't. I mean, we've got 10 cameras out, and it's been 2 weeks since we've had a good buck on camera. We have standing food for them. It makes no sense. So I don't know what to make of it. We don't know what to make of it for sure, because it's
no, I agree, because there was a lot less deer killed up here this year. And, you know, but the thing is that the year before that, like, I don't know if it was the same down there, but like last year, the 2019 season, I'm pretty sure everybody I know that hunts in this town got a deer.
Right.
But they were all young deer. They were 1.5 and 2.5-year-old deer. So it really breaks my heart, because there was a few good 3 and 4-year-old deer around this year, but also a couple of those deer got killed. So it's like, what's next year going to be?
Right.
Is it going to be you know?
Yeah. And that's a fantastic point. I've heard that on a couple podcasts over the last month, I'll say. Like, you can only replenish those deer so fast, you know, like, unless you're in an area where the deer legitimately migrate. But even in areas like Maine or the Adirondacks, where the deer do move a long ways, for the most part, they do come back to their home range. And if you go, like, I know, like, the last 2 years going up to this year on our Pennsylvania hunt, we shot 6 bucks out of just a small area each year. So 12 bucks in 2 years, just our crew. Like, that's a lot of deer. I mean,
that's a lot of deer. Yeah.
So we went down there this year, and it was slow, and we're like, well, what the hell's going on? Well, it's like, well, we shot 12 bucks in 2 years. So,
yeah, exactly.
You know, and that's just us in 3 days of hunting. That's not everybody else that's down there throughout the whole season.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you take a step back and think about it.
It is. It's crazy. And it can be so indirect too. You don't even mean it, but then everybody has a good year, and then the next 3 years after that, everybody has a mediocre year. You know, so I mean, sometimes you can't help it. That's just a part of hunting. No, as long as everybody's doing their part, and you know, that's where it goes to the whole argument of, you know, should we all just only shoot 2.5-year-old deer and bigger? You know, I've kind of made myself do that in the last 3 or 4 years, and it's been hard, because the redneck in me wants to let the bullets fly when I see antlers, you know. But
for sure,
or whatever. But you know, but there is something to be said about those states and those areas that hone in on the whole antler restriction thing. I mean, I'm all for it now in ways. You know, it's just nothing but beneficial to the herd. But you know, I get it. I'm not here to you know, shit on in the way anybody hunts. You know, if you're the type of guy that fills your tag when the first buck you see, and that's the way you do it, more power to you. You know.
Yeah, and
but don't complain about declining deer numbers.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. That goes hand in hand. And if you're I do like the way, personally, my opinion, I do like the way, and it sounds like you're the same way. Like, I like that New York State's not implementing a hard and fast antler point restriction. Would that help? Would that help get larger bucks? Yeah, it would.
Absolutely. But they've been
like,
highly encouraging it.
Yeah, and it's working. I mean, overall, look at the caliber of deer that are getting shot everywhere. There's bigger bucks than I've ever seen taken out of the state. Year after year, they're just getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
So I mean, people can electively choose on their property or on public land, wherever they're hunting. They can choose to let those deer walk. That's the hunter's choice. And
Mhm.
I think that's good to
Mhm.
leave that in the hands of the hunter to
Yeah.
make that decision, you know, because
Absolutely.
we have plenty of deer here. Like if we were in a state where we had, you know, not enough deer, or we really needed to help keep the population at a certain point, like New York's got very clear goals, it seems, to level out the deer herd to a level that they feel is fit for our population, the people that live here, the habitat, and the animals. You know,
Yeah.
everybody having a good situation. So
Yes. Yeah. I think that's good. You know, and I'm not a big like karma and luck guy or whatever, but I do call it karma. Like if you're gonna let a spike horn go and you're gonna let a 4-point go, it's called you know, to me I call it building karma in the woods. And I had to do that this year and let a few bucks go. Like one nice, like if it was, I can remember 2 times specifically I let 2.5-year-old 8-pointers go, that one I could have took a couple just shots at and I felt like I could have hit it, and the other one I was staring at like 30 yards and could have shot in multiple places and dropped. But you know, I had other guys that were hunting with me that I wanted them to get the deer, but you know, I would have been kicking myself in the nuts if it would have been the last day of season and I didn't shoot those deer. But at the same time, I ended up killing like a 4-year-old deer, a deer that was 2 years older, you know, a nice deer that I'm going to European mount, you know, and I can only relate that to, you know, me letting go those smaller deer, you know. So for those people out there that are listening to this podcast and they're like, oh yeah, well, I never see big bucks. Well, try letting go a small one and having some faith, you know what I mean? Because it could happen like me on the last day of season, the last 3 years in a row or last weekend, where you get an opportunity at a nice deer, you know.
yeah,
And it may not ever seem like it's possible, but take it from someone like me who's started out as literally the most rookie hunter that just absolutely knew nothing about hunting. And now you know, I'm not saying I'm a great hunter or anything, but I run a guide service and I have good success and I don't eat a tag sandwich a lot, you know what I mean? But that's just, you know, putting a lot of time into it and really having a passion for it and a love for it, and, you know, a passion for getting other people into the hunt and, you know, taking care of the area that you live in and having respect for the land.
yeah,
And I don't know, I guess that's what it comes down to me, you know, as a hunter for.
yeah. Now
So.
I want to ask you this. It just hearing you talk about that, and you know, makes me think. You know, all 3 of those bucks that you were involved in, you know, Austin's 2 and yours, you were pretty
Hmm.
aggressive. I mean, you were actively on both of Austin's bucks. You guys were making moves to try to get into the deer and get them moving.
Absolutely.
And then
Yeah,
the
I
buck
was
you
going in for
shot,
the kill.
I was gonna say, the buck you shot,
Go ahead.
it's the end of the season. You know, like I'm sitting here thinking about how I would be, and that's it. I've been there. I've been there multiple times where I
Yeah.
didn't shoot a deer at all the whole season,
Mm,
and you're pressing, like you're pushing hard. You're like trying to make something happen, and that's
yeah.
when you can make mistakes. But you were still being aggressive right up through. I assume that that's kind of how you are every time you go in the woods. You're not just sitting around sometimes waiting for stuff to happen. You're out trying to make it happen.
Yeah, I think, and dude, like I it's funny. I'm glad that people like you acknowledge that stuff because it makes me feel good about myself. But sometimes I think it's to a fault of like a almost obsessive compulsion disorder of like, you know, I got to make it happen. But I think it's that drive in some people, and I can only relate it to a passion and an obsession that's like a fire lit inside of me, you know, that like I have to do what I have to do to make this happen. You know what I mean? And I'm gonna try, you know, and I go out and I convince myself to not be afraid of failure, you know, and I just, you know, I practice, you know, I make sure to be very how do I put this, very vigilant and methodical about the way I go about things, everything from scent control to you know, the way I dress and how I button up and put my pack on and load my gun and walk in the woods and the area I take to my stand. And, you know, people think I'm crazy, but like my washcloth, my towel, my seat covers, I wash all in the dead downwind laundry detergent. So everything. And then I'll wear just my long johns, my underwear that I washed in that, my socks that I washed in that, to my hunting spot. I'll have all that stuff in a box, like all my hunting gear in a box in the back of my truck that I washed and all that scent stuff. And it's just like each year I add on these different, okay, Wesley, how can I be, better at what I did last year, this year? What step extra can I take? And I've just been implementing these different things and, going out on the limb and trying things. And I can't tell you, like, yeah, I've had good success in the last, especially 3 years with deer that people would maybe say mount on the wall or whatever. And that's not what it's all about for me, is killing like wall hanging deer. But, I do want to have success, but like doing all these little things, I think in the end is just, starting to slowly pay off, because I was always the kid that, wasn't afraid of making mistakes. And for every deer I've killed in the Adirondacks that people may be like, wow, I've jumped, missed, spooked 20 bucks for every one buck I've killed up here. You know what I mean? So I don't want people to think it's easy or whatever. I remember just walking out in the woods, looking down at signs and spooking so many deer that were so close to me. And I look up and they're running away and I'm like, oh, what do I do? But now when I walk through the woods, you're planning your steps, you're looking ahead, your eyes are always peeled, you're going way slower. And it's just been years and years and years and years and years of so much error and trial and error and so much failing to finally starting to come together for some people. And I've paying attention to all these podcasts and stuff. It's people like Joe Donito and the Salerno brothers and Hal Blood that also are a part of, I stay up online and YouTube and listen to all these guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got to give credit to all these people,
I agree.
But,
I second that, and I think that's one of the coolest parts about this day and age, is that we have the ability to like feed that obsession. And I wasn't always obsessed with hunting. Like, this has become, once sports were always my passion, and once sports was behind me, then it's like I need to fill that void, and hunting has just become that.
Yeah.
And then podcasts have just, I'm obsessed, and I drive for a living. Like, you operate equipment, it looks like, for a living. So it's like, you can throw an earbud in and like just listen to this stuff all day long, and my mind is just always turning about like that spot that guy's talking about. Like, do I have a spot that is similar to that, or can I take something that he did and he found success? So now I'm doing that, and I'm looking at maps and saying, okay, this guy was talking about this terrain feature, or I have an experience with that terrain feature, and I'm going in to scout new areas I've never been to. I walk in there, there's a sign right here. It's like,
exactly.
So it's an addiction, and it's a passion, to the fact where it's like, you're always learning, but you like are taking things that you can apply, that you learn from this one spot or this one time, and you can take it and apply it almost anywhere, and that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Like, I'm getting very confident in the region that I'm hunting, as far as being able to go locate sign and locate deer. But like, I really want to take some of that to like areas up your way, like towards the Adirondacks.
Exactly.
And see if I can stumble myself into the same thing,
Yeah. And I totally agree. I think that same curiosity as a hunter is something that's common within us, as as our passion for hunting is like hunting up here in the Adirondacks, especially, and then down in Arkansas once a year my whole life. Like, I feel like I could go anywhere now and look at a mountain and be like, all right, I think I'm going to find sign up there, and just confidently head in that direction and have a feeling that you're going to find sign up there. And when you get to that point in your hunting career, it really makes you feel confident. You know what I mean? It's just kind of cool, and you got to give credit to everybody around you and stuff like that. But a lot of those things, like I've, said, especially for me, is so much trial and error, going out and doing it on your own, failing so many times before you succeed.
Have you hunted out west yet?
I have not. I worked up in Alaska for a guy named what was his last name there? anyways, the outfit was Ram Aviation, and we did drop hunts for caribou. But no, I've been fly fishing out west. I've never hunted out west, but I'd love to.
Yeah,
I'd love to. It's definitely on the bucket list.
Wait until you e-scout from here, never set foot in an area, and you walk in there and poke your head over a ridge, and it's full of animals that you are after, and you're like, holy shit. Everything that I learned, I listened to, that I know from home where I would want to focus my energy. Like you're looking at it on Google Earth, and it doesn't happen every time.
Yeah.
I mean, it hasn't happened every time for us, but like literally the first day I ever was hunting in Colorado, Danny and I were up on top of this mountain all alone. And I walked up to this basin that I had looked at on Google Earth for a freaking year. And I'm like, that's going to be a sanctuary. It's difficult to get to. There's going to be elk in there. Sure as shit. I popped my head over, and the first thing I saw was an elk, and all I could hear was bugling. And it's like, like that feeling.
That's awesome.
That feeling is incredible, because that's hunting. Like hunting is trying, like killing is the icing on the cake, but it's putting yourself in a situation to see the game, to see the animals, to put the pieces together, to find something that's trying to survive at all costs.
Exactly.
And you're after them,
and bring what you got to the table as far as knowledge, and then put it into play. You know what I mean? Like, okay, I roosted that bird. I'm going to owl hoot. It's about that time. He should gobble right there. You know what I mean? Or he's hot. I'm going to make this call. He should come in because we moved around him. Or, you know what I mean? I'm going to go up here on this flat, and there's going to be a scrape line that runs right up the edge of that hill. And you're totally right. As a hunter, you want to make all these predictions and come up with these theories. And then when you prove yourself right, you go, it's like almost like a boost of confidence. And, it's just a confident, like I said, a confidence booster into your knowledge. And you're like, okay, I'm starting to get the hang of this. What I thought was true is actually true, and that's what I think. And it's just like anything, when you're learning about something and you're gaining knowledge and gaining in certain areas and really getting a hang of something, whether it be work or this or that, there's satisfaction behind all that effort and time and stuff. And it's the same thing as with hunting. Some people don't get it. Women don't all get it, but some of them do, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They're like, why are you spending all that money and time doing this? It's like, you don't understand.
my wife gets it until about middle of November, and then it's like, yeah, I don't get it anymore. That's how that typically goes. But it's actually I'm actually halfway through. My brother and I have been enjoying we've been talking back and forth, because the Working Class Bow Hunter, I don't know if you ever listened to their podcast. It's pretty good one. It's one of the original deer hunting podcasts. They've been around for a long time, but I just got on their bandwagon, I don't know, 6 months ago or so. And their episode this week, they actually turned the reins over to their wives, and there's the 3 wives are in the studio alone, just talking about their husbands. It's entertaining. And I was listening to it today on the way home from work, and one of the girls was talking about something, and like right at the moment when she was bringing something up, my wife calls, and I'm like, this is perfect timing. So Sarah calls, and I'm like laughing, and she's like, what's funny? I'm like, so I'm telling her. She's like, I'm really trying to get her. We've been trying to convince the girls, our wives, to do their own thing, because it would be super entertaining. I think people would love it.
That would be hysterical.
I think women would love it. I think they could easily do, the pert near inside is what we talked about calling it. They would probably surpass our followers in about 10 minutes. What they have to offer is much more entertaining.
Funny. I would listen to it.
I know. Everybody.
I think that's
I just want to know what's on their minds. Maybe they would actually talk about it with microphones in front of them. I don't know.
Yeah, if we weren't in the room and they had free range to just, let their lips loose and go.
Yeah, exactly. But I guess the last thing I want to hit on that topic with you is just, I think anybody out there, before we just got onto the whole woman thing and other podcasts, the having confidence when you go in the woods in what you're going to do and being aggressive, those are 2 things that I took away from this season. I've been gaining a lot of confidence personally over the last few years just because I've been having a lot of success. And now, like this year, probably more than ever, I hunted the least I've ever hunted, for sure. But was super confident about my hunts that I had where I did end up killing. And I think that's,
but you had success because of it too, right?
yeah. So that I just think, and nowadays there's so many people, whether it's just lacking confidence in general, or it's, you listen to so many of the big people in the outdoors, they, it's, you can't overpressure things. You can't do this. You can't do that. That's true in a lot of situations. But if you're in a spot where, like, I'm just going to use public land for the example here, because that's the situation where I'm using these aggressive tactics. I'm not concerned about what other hunters are doing.
You can't be.
I'm concerned about me. I know where the deer are. I know where the sign is, and I'm going after them right now. And every time I did that this year, I had opportunity every time.
Yep.
And I killed 3 out of the 4 times. So it's like, I think that's a huge message to anybody out there, whether you're a new or a experienced hunter, is that don't be afraid to go out there, especially if you're hunting property like our families are. We have 100 acres and there's 7 or 8 of us to hunt it, our family, for a whole season. It's like, you got to kind of check yourself in that situation, because other people, there's a lot of things that you want to be cognizant of what other people are doing. But if you're in a situation where you've got public land that you're hunting, don't get shy. If you have something you want to go do it.
I think you're like, I couldn't agree more, because so many times in my life, like with this area specifically that we killed like a few nice bucks out of this year, there's some outlaws down there, and their last name is Millingtons, and they're just a terrible group of people. They'll shoot fawns and does all season long with their rifle, and they're known for it. And I know they've killed a few bucks out of there. I saw at least 1 or 2 times I was down there where they were dragging a buck out of the same area. And so my point is like, I killed 3 bucks out of there. I know those outlaws killed 2 or 3 bucks out of there. And then another group of good friends of mine that hunt the other side of the creek that I hunt down there, they killed 2 or 3 bucks down there. So, but you can't be scared of it, because so many times I've sat home like, man, I know that's a good spot to hunt and there's probably deer there, but I don't want to overpressure them. It's like, so what are you saying, Wesley? You're just going to not go down there, and then there's a chance of someone else killing it before you. You know what I mean? It's like, go down there and get them before someone else does. You know what I mean? Don't sit there and worry about over pressuring deer. Those deer are going to be there. They're not going to be there. And you want to be the first one to have an opportunity at them anyways. And so I went down there the last day of season, and people have been killing deer down there, like even myself and, my group, all season long. And I killed like a 4-year-old buck, you know what I mean? In the first 45 minutes of hunting, you know what I mean? There's deer down there. There's going to be deer down there. They're going to move in the area. They're going to move out of the area, so don't be scared, just go and do it. And that's like with the whole Austin's, if you listen to that last podcast, I had 2 hours after work and I was 45 minutes from my spot. We went there for an hour hunt, and in the first 20 minutes, he killed that giant deer of a lifetime. You know what I mean? If you're on your way home from work and you know where some state land is and you only have an hour, pull over and run up in the woods real quick. You know what I mean? It's only an hour, and who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And you might learn something. That's the whole thing too. You can't be afraid of error. That's something that I had to grow out of, because I had a lot of error before I had success. So
yeah,
don't be afraid. Get after it.
I love it. Now, on pressure was one of the things I want to talk about. What was your experience up there this year? Did you see more people out? Did it seem like there was more pressure throughout the season?
I think there was. I think something with, people being able to get their license online this year with the whole COVID thing, a lot of people did. So we saw I saw what I figured to be a continuous rise in the amount of hunters up here in the Adirondacks. There's something about it. People are, they're latching onto this whole, I want to go kill a buck, where it's really hard to kill a buck, and there's a ton of state land up here too, which attracts people. You know, they don't, for people that live down south. So anyways, yes, there was more hunting pressure. I think COVID kind of kept people at home for the most part. And I know that sounds weird, you know, but like I didn't see a lot of people out as I expected. Let me put it this way. If people were able to get their hunting license online and there wasn't such thing as COVID, I would have expected to see a lot more hunters than I did. But I did, to answer your question, I did see a rise in hunters around, which is good and bad. You know, it's bittersweet. I love to see people getting into the sport, but to go down to my favorite spot and pass somebody with a tent camp with Connecticut plates, Massachusetts plates, and then go down there to my favorite hunting spot. There's a guy with a Vermont truck parked next to where I'm parking my truck, and we go kill a big buck. I mean, they all heard that shot. If they saw that deer, they're going to be coming next year, you know, and all that stuff kind of breaks my heart, you know, and it's hard not to get a little salty as a deer hunter. You know, you want your spots for yourself, but what can you do? Something that I had to learn, and one of my dad's friends, you know, that I talked about at the beginning of the podcast, that taught me how to hunt. He said, you know, Wesley, to all those people that say all that stuff and whatever, it's like, you can't, he goes, you know what I say? He goes, if you can't stand the competition, then you shouldn't be hunting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can't get butthurt and salty every time someone kills a buck a half a mile away from your spot, you know, but on their property. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wah, wah, wah. You can't be a grown man and cry about it. Get out there the next year, go out deeper, go out farther, or hunt harder and go kill a deer. You know what I mean? So that's just, even it's easier said than done, especially when it comes to the area where you're having a lot of success, but you know, it's just a part of it. You can't just cry about it. You got to get out and hunt it, you know?
Yeah.
And I hunt all state land up here, basically, just about everything I hunt. So I deal with people all the time, but thankfully the Adirondacks is, you know, people are still a little hesitant to come up here and they're afraid of getting lost and stuff, which, you know, benefits me. But at the same time, there's people are getting more into it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
The whole, you know, I like that we get to do these podcasts and stuff. And I saw that what you titled it, you know, Adirondack Recap. There's these guys that I've watched a couple of their videos. They're Adirondack trackers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Have you watched them?
Yep.
Yeah. So they have all these videos, and it seems like a couple of guys that have just started getting into hunting the Adirondacks, but they've killed slammer bucks.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, and it's like these dudes are just like, you know, the one guy's like, oh, this is my first Adirondack buck, and then the last 2 years he's killed 2 more 5-year-old bucks. You know what I mean? Just, you know, but if you looked at their views, Billy, they all have like 15 to 18,000 views, and they were posted 3 months ago. 18,000 views. I'm like, holy cow! So
people are searching. They're looking for ADK.
People are searching. Yeah, I have a feeling you're gonna, you know, I'd like to see more people that are like considered hunting professionals and people on, you know, the Pursuit channel and stuff, like come up here and try and kill a nice buck. You know what I mean?
No doubt. Yeah. And ironically, our best performing episodes, I don't think it's ironic. It's clearly people, there's a high interest right now in that type of hunting. Our best episode download wise, was Mark Sheeran was our best episode last year. And then Steve Shirk. So I mean, 2 Big Woods Bucks guys were our 2 best episodes. So that's kind of an eye opener to me, and I hadn't really thought about it the way you're talking about it. But right now, like, you know, there's been this huge rise in Western hunting, and everybody's flocking to Colorado and Montana and Wyoming and Utah to go experience that backwoods hunt. But we have that right here at home. You can do that in the Adirondacks. You can do that in Vermont, you know, in New England area, Maine, whatever. You can do that. So it's like, you can go experience that here. And obviously there's a lot of people that are interested in that because it's showing with our platform. It's showing with, you know, with Hale Blood doing the Big Woods Bucks podcast. I think that's probably doing pretty well. Bo Martonic, you know, he's focused solely on mountain bucks for the most part. Yeah,
I was messaging Bo the other day. He seems like somebody that's gonna kind of come up here and in the whole whitetail scene, which is cool.
Yeah,
I'd love to have you guys come up.
Bo's
in the Adirondacks sometime.
it's been fun watching Bo's platform grow because I somehow stumbled across him or we stumbled across each other. It doesn't really matter. But I started following him back in 2017 when I was going to Colorado. Somehow I crossed paths and I started following him, and he was just getting East meets West started. And and it's been really, I mean, he's really grown that thing significantly. And he's a big reason why we got this started because, you know, we had met him face to face down at the Total Archery Challenge in Pennsylvania. And, you know, he was very encouraging and just doing it and getting started. If you want to do a podcast, do it. You know, so it's like he was one of the influential people to me, and I appreciate the hell out of him for that. And it's fun to see his platform growing. It's fun to see, you know, the Northeast, the Appalachian region starting to get some more attention for some of the cool ass hunts that we have around here that you can do. So
I think it's neat. I think people are gonna move away from watching the people down in Mississippi and Missouri tree stand hunt these wide open fields and these box swines with recliners in them, and they're going to want to watch more of the guy that's sitting in a tree stand in a big oak on the side of a big mountain shooting a mountain buck, you know, like Bo does in those saddles or something like that. You know what I mean? I feel like the whole movement of whitetail hunting is going to head in that direction. I think it's great because, like, I'm more of like that primitive style of hunter. I want to hunt the way the Indians did, you know, on their feet, stalking, you know, using all these different strategies, and you know, I just think that's all neat. But
yeah, man. So we're like, and I'm interested to see what happens with 2021 because, you know, you brought up, you know, getting together and doing some sort of a hunt, and this 2021 was a year like I've kind of gotten into a routine of every other year going on a trip out west, and we're it's not ruled out at this point, but we haven't really discussed. I haven't discussed it with the sergeant major upstairs yet. That being my wife, and I'm not quite sure I'm gonna put that pressure on her this year. I don't know, just the way that things are right this second. I don't see that being a very responsible thing to do. So I'm thinking about doing.
Well, if things are still like being, you know, you're second guessing things with COVID and traveling and all that, we should do like a Adirondack tent camp up here or something for a few days, or get together in August and do some early season scouting together and do some podcasts about it, and then maybe get a place set up in the woods and do some hunting up here this year or something like that, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things that I'm tossing around. I've got several people that I've met through the podcast that really want to do something like that, or just hunt together, period. And whether it's this year or some year in the future, I mean, that's a bucket list thing for me, is to do like an Adirondack, get a base camp set up way back in the middle of the wilderness area and hunt. You know, that's something that's on my bucket list. So, you know, getting a group of guys together that are interested in doing something like that is something that I'm very serious about. So
well, let me know, because I can, you know, I got a big heads up on some areas. If you guys got the manpower and you guys want to put the time and energy into it, then I got a few good areas that we could definitely do something in. And I know some areas that people used to have tent camps back in that had great success, but there's just a whole another different level of effort and time you got to put into that. But I personally think it would be worth it. But unless you have 4 or 5 people that are crazy like me and think the same, then it's not worth it. Because you got to be able to bring a lot of gear back in, at least I would say 3 miles to make it worth it. You know, if not, why wouldn't you just get up and drive there and hike in the morning? So
right.
Either way, we can talk about it, and I think it would be awesome. So
yeah, I agree. I wanted a couple of other topics I wanted to hit with you while I got you. Is I'm very intrigued about the guide licensing process. I'm just curious what that was like for you. What does it take to become a guide here in New York State?
I would say don't be scared of it at all if you're thinking about it. And I'll explain in a second. But so to to get your course, you have to have your CPR and first aid, which is usually a combined course of either 4 to 6 hour course, which is super easy to get. And then you have to have your basic water safety course. And that's a very easy course to get. You literally just watch some videos and stuff. You don't have to take any tests. But the hard part about that one is finding one. You can find them a lot easier in between the months of February and May because of rafting season coming. To get that basic water safety course, it's easier to find during those months. But you just have to have those, and then you have to take your test. That's one generalized test to the state of New York, and then there's 5 or 6 subcategories. One's like boat and canoes, one's hunting, one's fishing, one's ice climbing, whitewater rafting, and then like camping or something like that. So I took them all besides ice climbing and rafting. So, and I'm not that intelligent of a guy, so if I can do it, anybody can do it. It's a very common sense type of a question. It's like, questions like, if there's a storm coming and it's an hour and a half out and you're 100 yards from shore, do you paddle in or wait till the storm's over? It's like, well, you paddle in, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's easy, but what is very, very nice about the guide's license is it allows you to get discounts on gear that you would like. People look at my pictures like, oh, that kid must have money. No. So I wear Sitka because you get 50% off of it with your guide's license. So I was able to buy $2,000 worth of Sitka gear for $1,000. So that's where all that comes from.
That's a hell of a pro tip there.
Yeah, it is. It is a hell of a pro tip is that if you want to get discounts on gear, and then there's a site called guidefitter.com. And when you sign up for it, you put in a resume, who you work for or what your company is, and a lot of and it'll give you literally 25 to 80 different companies that you can get 30 to 50% off of their products, like Havalon knives, Cuddy back cameras, Kuiu gear, Sitka, all different game processing and deer processing products, sport dog products for like shock collars and duck gear. It's called guidefitter.com. If I don't want to be telling everybody a big secret, but if you're a hunter and you had a little bit of extra time, it's worth it to get your guide's license, honestly, just for the discounts you get. It's absolutely insane. Guidefitter.com, you'll get 30 to 50% off of hundreds of different brands. It's insane. And you click and apply, and then through the whole site you get all these discounts. So it's really easy. If anybody's thinking about it, I recommend it. But to be honest, I do want to put in, I did guide full time for 2.5 years, and you will be met with some people that you do not enjoy guiding, and it didn't take the love completely away for hunting for me and fishing, but there was certain types of hunting and fishing that I kind of got sick of just because I was guiding all the time. So, I don't want to sit here and scare people out of it and be like, I wouldn't do it because I don't want you to lose your passion, but guiding isn't always what it's chopped up to be. I love taking people that are super appreciative and don't expect a lot of things when I take them on a trip. Like, they don't expect to kill a 10-point buck, they're just happy to be out in the woods. I love guiding those people. But those people that, they want to catch things, they want to kill things, and they expect it, it's really an unenjoyable experience. So that's one thing I want to forewarn people if they're thinking about starting a guide service, because it can take a lot of the passion out of it for you. It started to for me, and I wouldn't ever let it do it. And I still am going to continue to guide, but I just want everyone to be warned about that.
That's interesting to hear.
It is a lot of responsibility because, yeah, you're out there with people like that. Like a year before I started guiding for the guide service I guided with before I started my own business, they had a kid get off watch and they had to call the DC officers, and there was 14 of them looking for him in the woods, and they didn't find him until 10 o'clock at night. And that's a bad day. That would make me not want to, that was a 3-day trip, and that was day one of taking them, and they had to hunt with them the next 2 days. Like, you're not getting up and looking forward to hunting when you got to deal with that kid. Hopefully he's scared shitless and doesn't leave his watch. But when you have that type of responsibility, it's it's nerve-wracking. But then again, when you wake up and the worst thing you got to do today is go drive deer to people or go bait someone's hook, it's not all that bad, but it doesn't pay that great either. So keep all that in mind.
Yeah, it's definitely all factors to be aware of. And I was just interested because, I mean, I for me, it's like I really enjoy taking people out. I don't think I would ever. I would never make a career out of it, but I'm just curious what it takes to do that. Is that something where you have to? Nice. Do you carry like insurance and that? Do you have to have?
I don't have an insurance business. I don't make enough money for me to justify even considering it, because it's like $4,000 to $5,000, and I make little under that just doing weekends, a few months, couple times a year. So
yeah,
it's not worth it to me. My old boss, he has guide insurance and stuff, but he's also doing 200 guided trips a year. So
right, much bigger,
makes up for it,
bigger business.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I appreciate the insight into that. That's good stuff. I was just curious.
Yeah, absolutely.
From
good for the discounts.
For sure. And that's noted for sure. I
noted for sure.
That intel. Yeah. So lastly, I know you're also big into snowmobiling, and my brother, I was hoping to have Jimbo on here, but he's in the middle of baby duty himself, dealing with his young one. So I just curious.
I'm heading out to Tug Hill tomorrow. I might have to give a pertinent report. Yeah.
We're gonna need a pertinent trail report.
Okay. The other day it was good. It's all these keyboard warriors. They were really saying how it wasn't that great, but I mean, it was good for me. You know what I mean? Maybe there's some city folk on there that expect perfectly groomed trails, but there's a base and there was 6 inches of some granular on top, and I was by myself and did about like a little over 100 miles in a little over 3 hours. So I was just ripping around on the main trails up and back to Flat Rock and Timberview and over, and I had a good time. So I'm gonna go find that sticker and take a picture of it at the gorge tomorrow. Yeah. So,
yeah. I don't know if Jimmy put up multiple stickers or if he just put up that one, but yeah, we're doing a little sticker.
I know where it is, so I'll try to find it.
Find the Pertinier sticker and post a picture of it.
Yeah.
And we'll send you one.
There you go. Good.
Yeah,
deal.
we're Jimbo was I don't know if you texted with him last weekend, right?
Yeah, you gave me his number. Yep, and I was texting back.
Yeah, so he wanted to, but didn't feel that it was the responsible thing to do to go riding on Sunday when he was supposed to be coming home. So, but I'm sure you guys will catch up one of these weekends when he's up there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So
you're cool to meet him.
But you're on the eastern side of the mountains, right? So that's a pretty good haul for you.
It's 2 hours and 40 minutes. Yeah, but
do you go through the mountains or do you go down to the thruway and up?
I've done them both. The last weekend I went through the mountains just because I like going through there and going through Old Forge. There's always a bunch of deer walking around in town.
Yeah.
So, and I just it's only a 3-minute longer than going down to 365. So
yeah,
might as well go that way. There's less cops too, so kind of boogie along.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Well, was there anything else you wanted to chat about?
I think we kind of touched on everything. We did a little recap and then told the story and, talked about a few things that I kind of wanted to talk about. I'm sad it's over. I feel like it came and went so fast, but it is what it is. And we're on to turkey season. Do you think you're going to branch out into doing any podcasts on turkey hunting or?
Yeah, we'll probably start getting into turkey. I think last year we started doing turkey stuff towards April-ish, mid to end of April as we get closer. Jimmy's way more into turkey hunting than I am. I got into it a little bit the last few years, but I'm no turkey slayer. I prefer fishing. But since kids came, I've really kind of honed things back to just focusing on deer just because I don't want to, I can't be into everything. I already have too many damn things going on. So I've choked that back a little bit, but yeah, we'll get into that. We'll do a little bit of fishing talk this winter with maybe some. I got a buddy out of Oswego, Zach Eason. He's got a guide service there that he does fishing charters on the Salmon River. So I want to get him on here to talk about that. So we'll do a little bit of that this winter, and then we're also getting into No, go ahead.
Yeah. My buddy Andrew Sponable with Cobble Creek Outfitters. He has a guide service for the last 3 years on the Pulaski River for fly fishing trips for steelhead and salmon. If anybody wants to get a hold of him with Cobble Creek Outfitters on Instagram, his Instagram says it all. I mean, the kid is just a fishing freak.
Nice.
And he's got a boat and everything. So he might, if you ever wanted to talk to him about that, he fishes all those tributaries to Lake Ontario. And then I'm going to try to pick up a couple brookie fishing trips this year too. So if you wanted to bring me back on for that, that's my probably my third favorite thing to do.
What time of year do you focus on that?
That's May. That's May with the turkey season too.
Nice.
But I know more about turkeys, so that's my thing. I'd like to pick up a couple turkey trips. I know I'm booked like the first couple weekends, but
yeah. Like so we do the Breeding radio as well for turkey season, so we'll have to get you on to hear what's happening up in the North Country.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
last
year
a
we
couple
actually
of YouTube videos.
Sorry, we keep cutting each other off. Last year we actually did a contest for turkey, and it actually went.
Oh yeah,
it was pretty awesome.
I missed it. Yeah, I missed it. I should have got in there. I remember I missed it by a couple of days.
We'll get you in.
But yeah, you gotta, if you look up my buddy Anthony Marchetti with Drawn Addiction, we made a couple of videos. I did a giveaway youth hunt through my guide service for the youth season, and we had a kid that I'd select. He was the only one that entered, sadly, but I'd love to have other people entered. But he missed a turkey the first day. We got that on video with a nice HD camera, like 1040 pixel, like real nice, everything. I'll send you the link to the videos. It's Drawn Addiction is the YouTube page. And then the next day he was sitting next to me. I had my iPhone and he killed a nice tom. And then the next weekend we did a video hunt of opening weekend and I killed a nice tom, and we got it all on video, and it just came out so sick. You'd like it. So yeah.
Hell yeah. Let's check it out.
Yeah, man. It'd be sweet.
All right, let's wrap this puppy up, Wes. It's pumpkin time for me.
Good. Appreciate you having me. Sam, appreciate you having me back on again. It's always a pleasure, chatting with you guys and whatnot. And can't wait to see what next year brings for us for sure.
Absolutely.
Hopefully it'll be good.
Stay well, safe riding, and we'll see you around.
Yeah. Keep feeding them.
Keep feeding them, buddy.
All right, buddy. We'll talk to you.
All right, see you.
All right, thanks.